afternoon and welcome to The Lyric Professors. I am Professor A, and joining me as ever are Professor Dogger and from the other side of the world, Professor J. How are things on the other side of the world, Professor J, and what is today's guitar interesting fact?
It's a lovely rainy day because it's been too hot, so it's good to have a little bit of rain.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. So today's fun chord is a E half diminished. So instead of a full diminished, which basically has a sort of, I think it's a flattened minor seventh, which really is a sixth, like this. You can never see this. A half diminished. It's like that. Try mixing a half diminished with a full diminished. It's fun.
I'll get right on that. Yeah.
You get on that, sir.
Yes. As it was your choice this time, would you like to introduce our subject for this next session of 3?
Absolutely. So today we are going to be focusing on one of my all-time favorite groups, the Cult. And it was probably the first group that I really, really got into. There were other stuff that I listened to as a kid that I really liked, but the Cult was the first one that I sort of really felt was mine. So these have a very special meaning to me. They're quite surprising because they're a group that has maintained a sort of presence in all their years. There's still a couple of songs that are absolute bangers that are still around. How would you describe the music of this group, Professor A?
Well, it's kind of evolved over time. They started out as sort of, I'd say, post-punk, borderline goth, then became more hard rock with their third album, Electric, and certainly the follow-up, Sonic Temple. And as for what they're doing now, I'm not entirely sure. I haven't heard much in the last few years. I know they are still active, but I'd imagine it's much the same.
Yeah, I mean they're still doing stuff, but who cares? Let's look at the old stuff. So the Cult were formed in kind of 1983, but this was basically the third iteration of a group that started off with the much more inappropriate name of the Southern Death Cult, which
Yes.
started in 1979 in Bradford, with the first incarnation, which was actually the band Violation, with Barry Jepson on bass, Hak Nawaz Aki Qureshi on drum, and they formed the band with a guitarist now only known as Mick. They don't remember that person's real name. They rehearsed for about 7 months. They played their first show, then they played about 20 shows in total over 18 months, and they even did some demo tracks in 1981.
Did they not release an EP as well?
Yeah, so I'm still on the Violation. So the Southern Death Cult formed in 1981. So it still had it still had Aki and Jepson, who were the drummer and the bassist. And then they brought in Ian Astbury as the vocalist and the guitarist David Buzz Burrows. Now, when and then they went through several iterations. So this was the Southern Death Cult in 81. Then they changed their name to the Death Cult.
Right.
When
I'd actually, from what I've read, that's not what I've read. I've read that Astbury left the Southern Death Cult and formed a new band entirely called Death Cult with Billy Duffy.
Yeah, I mean, when one thinks of the Cult, you think of Astbury and Billy Duffy. Those are the two key people in the group. And you're right, there was this kind of schism when Astbury met Billy Duffy. and I just want to maybe we'll come back to the sort of formation and the times of them a bit later, but I think it's notable to say now that they were formed in Bradford in West Yorkshire in England in the early 80s, and but they have spent their whole career with this sort of visualization of Native American stuff. Do you know where that came from, Professor A?
Don't actually. It's not just Native American either. It's sort of like all indigenous races, because they did a EP called Dreamtime, or Alma, which is about Aboriginal Australians' Dreamtimes, isn't it? I believe.
Yeah, I believe so.
So,
Yeah,
so it's a sort of fascination with all indigenous races. I don't know where it came from.
yeah. I mean, so well, let's just dive into Ian Astbury a bit. So he was born in Heswall in Cheshire. He's of Scottish and English descent. And when he was 11, he and his family moved to Hamilton, Ontario in Canada. And he was there for 6 or 7 years, I believe. And then during this time, he became a big fan of Bowie, Iggy Pop, New York Dolls. But he didn't start performing until he returned back to England. And he's talking about his influences, and really he said that when he arrived in Canada, he was an outsider. He was an immigrant. He was ostracized, even if when he was growing up, his mother was Scottish, his father was English. He was born in like the Merseyside area and then moved to Glasgow. So he's always been a bit of an outsider, right?
Yeah.
But when he was in Canada, there were a lot more people who were, it was a lot more immigrants at that time in Canada as opposed to what he found living in Glasgow. But he found himself hanging out with the kids from other cultural or racial backgrounds. So it was good for him. Then, in terms of how he got into this sort of spiritual thing, and I think this is important for the first song, but that's why I'm going on about it so much. So when he was at school, he went to the Six Nations of the Grand River Reserve. And this is a quote from him. That's where I had my first epiphanic experience. I got pretty bored with our tour guide, so I wandered off on my own and came across all these indigenous kids playing lacrosse. I was so mesmerized by them all running around. They weren't at school, but we were. They were just running around, playing, shirts off, having an amazing time. Another kid went by on a horse with no saddle. It was amazing. There was an old man sitting on a step. I immediately went and sat beside him. He was really cool with me. He was smiling at me, smoking a pipe. I thought, I feel really comfortable here. I really feel like I belong here. It was a really important experience to me because that's when I became immersed in indigenous philosophy and the core of the culture. I think that's the key to everything.
Yes.
So I think that's important to consider as we dive into our first track, which is Go West from their first album, Dreamtime, from 1984. Should we dive into some lyrics?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. Go west, young man, and break bread in the new lands. My life is over, while yours just beginning. Just want to take a little pause here. I was listening to a podcast with Ben Folds recently. Are you aware of Ben Folds?
I remember he had a couple of big hits in the 90s. One was Rick, it's a very sad song.
Yep.
And he had a big hit with a cover of was it a Snoop Dogg song? No, something.
I don't know, but that album.
It's B's ain't S but H's and T's is the song.
So there was a podcast talking about his inspiration for that album, which Brick came from, which is the Whatever and Ever Amen album. But the one quote that it was on the Spark and Fire podcast, it's well worth listening to if you want to hear about improvisation and where you get your creative urges from. But one thing that really jumped out at me in this song, in this podcast, was he was talking about how he chose the words for his songs. And he said, on average, there are 45 to 50 unique words in a song. So you have to be extremely careful to ensure that you choose the right words. So today, I will be listing the number of words and the number of unique words in each of our
That's
songs.
very helpful. Yeah.
Yes.
That's not how I write songs, I have to say.
What, looking at
I think
unique words?
I'm probably closer to 300 or 350, I should think.
Oh, we can find out. So this song has 322 words, of which 72 are unique.
Right.
Which is a lot more than some of the others we're going to be talking about today.
That's true, yes. Stop it,
So,
please.
Go West. What does that mean, Professor A?
Well, this is one of the few things about these cult lyrics that I've actually managed to research and can talk about a bit. I can have a lovely argument with you about who actually said it first, if you like.
Go for it. Well, let's say what it means and then say who said it.
Well, there's two. It's about. It was said by an American newspaper magnate. It's just a discussion about which, and it was exhorting people to go west within the United States, grow up within the country. I was suggesting that people don't just cluster around where settlements were on the East Coast, New England, etc. So go out and take the rest of the country for themselves and make something of themselves. In fact, break bread in the new lands, as Mr. Astbury says.
And do you know the actual quote?
I didn't copy and paste it ridiculously, but I will say it's not actually what people think it is.
Okay, well, I'll tell you the one that people think it is, from Josiah Bushnell Grinnell. Go west, young man, go west. There is health in the country and room away from our crowds of idlers and imbeciles. That is very frank advice, but is medicine easier given than taken? It is a wide country, but I do not know just where to go.
Yeah, the problem is that there is no record of that ever actually appearing in the newspaper. It's claimed it appeared in. It's meant to have appeared in that. I don't know how to pronounce this. Is it Terraute? Terrehaute. Terraute Express in 1851, and as I say, no one's found it in any edition of that newspaper from that year.
Yeah.
There's a rival claimant to it, which is a chap called J.B.L. Soule. He is alleged to have said it in 1840 something, which I haven't written down. I've really messed up this thing. But again, no one can find that either. But the originally it was claimed that the young man, go west young man, was a chap called Josiah B. Grinnell. But he himself claimed that he was never told that a person really wrote it in a letter to him. It was never in the newspaper. And he said at one time he did speak to him. The oral advice he was given was not the precise phrase we remember him for. He said, in fact, go west. This is not the place for a young man. Not that.
Right. Okay. Okay. So it was also in the New York Daily Tribune in 1865. And at that point, it was related to the concept of manifest destiny. You know what that is?
I should do, shouldn't I? Presuming it's something to do with might makes right. What you take is yours.
Pretty much. The American settlers were destined to expand across North America. So it was the mission of the United States to redeem and remake the West in the image of the agrarian East. and it was an essential duty. It was a manifest destiny for people to go west. So it's he's telling this young man to leave the east and head to the west and break bread in the new lands. What does that mean?
It's just, I thought breaking bread is sort of, you break bread with someone, you're meeting them and talking, but of course they didn't just meet and talk with the indigenous peoples.
No, they didn't. I mean, but there is a significance there that break bread, breaking of the bread. Yes, it means having a meal, sharing a meal with people, but also it is a religious term, right? So
Of course, yeah.
it is also
Sacrament.
indicating to spread the religion west as well. Okay. And who do you think's saying this? Because in that line it says, "My life is over while yours just beginning."
I reckon it's the old bloke on the step with a pipe.
You reckon?
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Could be anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you said, it's not going to take us very long to get through many of these songs. So I'm going to
I
go.
was going to suggest we did all 12 in this episode, but
I got lots to say. So the next thing is kind of a chorusy type thing. We can offer you everything, repeated 6 times, and then the crazy spinning circles going round and round, repeated several times, and then around and round. What do you think that refers to?
I don't know. I really don't know. I sort of played with the idea that it might be a reference to the Gaia Hawk, is it, in The Second Coming by W.B. Yeats, which circles around and is said to cannot hold. But I don't think it is, let's be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's very little about it. I think when I was listening to it when I was younger, I just assumed that everything was this was something within the American native culture. You go west,
Yes,
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then this crazy spinning circles, I thought it meant some sort of mystical meaning. But really thinking about this in terms of the go west, my feeling now is that it's related to the tornadoes. I think he's talking about tornadoes, and he's actually talking about the escaping from the Dust Bowl. What do you know about that, Professor A?
It says to me something about the Great Depression, but I don't know if it's connected.
Yeah, so I mean, this is again, we've talked about a number of groups that like Americana, and the Cult are a big one for that. So this was in the 1930s. They constructed Route 66. So it was a road that connected Chicago to Los Angeles, and it was it was the path to Western Promise for Okies, people from Oklahoma, escaping the Dust Bowl in the 1930s. And I think it's that. I think the crazy spinning circles going round and round, it's talking about the dust storms, the Dust Bowl, all those sort of things, and people escaping this eastern bit of the country, moving to the west where the promise is greener. So I think that is what it's referring to, which disappointed me because I thought it was some sort of Native American imagery.
Yeah, that's very good interpretation. I guess it could also be about history repeating itself.
Yeah. Also, this Go West, Young Man, Go West. What do you think? What are you aware of Go West meaning outside of American interpretation?
I'm aware that it was a song by lads who did YMCA. who I can't remember the name of.
Yeah, well, we'll come on to that in a second. But the meaning, according to English British interpretation, is that to go west is to die. It's most probably based on the notion of the setting sun, symbolizing disappearance or finality. And there are lots of references to go west in other European cultures as well, talking about to go west is to disappear. And for those of you who are into Tolkien and Lord of the Rings, I forget who says it. Is it Elrond at the end of the books? He says, I will diminish and head to the west. So that's where the elves would sail off the end of the planet to live out their final days. So I think that's interesting as well, because it is a different meaning to going west. So I'd say in European cultures, go west means you go somewhere to die.
Yes.
This sort of go west young man under American cultures is to look for this new life.
I don't think it can't be the European interpretation of this song though, because of the
because of the way it's phrased. But I think it's. There is a French usage of this term.
Oh yes.
Être à l'ouest. So it's a slangy term. So that means you're either under the effect of drugs or alcohol, you're out of touch with reality, or you're just unreasonable. But yes, there are other famous uses of go west. So you mentioned the 1979 song by the Village People. In terms of the way that the Village People interpreted it, it was an invitation to pursue one's own dreams and individuality. And did you know that the melody from that song resembles the state anthem of the Soviet Union, composed by Alexander Alexandrov?
I did not. Oh, there you go.
Also, there was the famous 80s pop band Go West, who had a lot of very big hits such as We Close Our Eyes, Call Me Faithful, and most latterly King of Wishful Thinking, which was in Pretty Woman, made them really big. There was also a 1925 silent Western comedy film from Buster Keaton. Can I tell you about this, the plot of this story?
I would love to know, Professor Joe.
So Keaton portrays Friendless, who travels to the west to try and make his fortune. Once there, tries his hand at bronco busting, cattle wrangling, and dairy farming, eventually forming a bond with a cow named Brown Eyes. There's this funny bit when, unable to find a job in the city, he stows away on a train heading for New York. He's in a train heading for California. He sleeps inside a barrel, but the barrel rolls off a train, and that's how he ends up at this cattle ranch getting the job. So Buster Keaton. There's also the Marx Brothers, a 1940, their 10th film, relating to stolen property deeds. Okay. Some more lyrics. Oh, there aren't any. Oh, yes, there are. There are a few.
There's one more.
Yeah. Spread your wings in the new lands.
We also had in the verse before, it's Go West, young man, are your dreams in the new lands? Or the break.
That's true. And then there's this kind of toccata and fugue. There's this call and return in the later verse. We can offer you everything. I must be high. We can offer you everything if everything gone away. We can offer you everything, this place and time. We can offer you everything, so do I.
Right, I didn't actually have that bit. Oh well.
So, I mean, you remember the bit though. So,
and there's another one as well, actually, which is quite important. The last iteration of Go West, young man. The next line is, and break those heads in the new lands.
heads. Oh,
version
there
I've
we go.
got.
Yes, yes.
So I think that's definitely talking about going out there and forcibly taking land and property.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go. I got nothing more to say about this one. Have you?
No, I'm surprised. I'm absolutely amazed you came up with so much as you did. Do we have anything to say about the music? It's quite good. I think
It's brilliant. I think the sonic soundscape that Billy Duffy was able to create with his one guitar, and I think this was the period when he was famously playing his Gretsch White Falcon. You know, that great big hollow body guitar. I mean, he does have a custom one.
and apparently he uses the one pedal all the way through, which is a Roland chorus pedal. I think.
Well, we'll come on to that in the next song, actually. But yeah, so in later ones, he was playing a Gibson Les Paul, and in fact, there are some limited signature versions, and there was another run of his signature Les Paul was in sort of prototype before COVID, so it may yet come back. But they are out there, the old ones. So the next song we're going to do is "She Sells Sanctuary," which is it's off the second album from 1985, which is called "Love."
Smash hit.
I think this is the one. If you've heard of the Cult, you know this song. If you haven't heard of the Cult, you know this song because it's one of those songs that has its feet in a lot of camps. It's kind of rock, it's kind of goth, it's kind of poppy, it's a bit of everything, right?
And it's in a lot of films and television.
Yeah, it sure is. So this was the last song to be recorded with Nigel Preston, who was fired from the band. So when he was creating this famous riff at the beginning, he was just kind of messing around, and to make Ian Astbury laugh, he would just turn on every effect that he had. And
yes,
in the studio which they were working, he found a violin bow lying around. So he started, and Jimmy Page was famous for having played a bow on
yes,
Kashmir.
Kashmir.
Oh, yeah. So there we go.
Do you want the actual quote about that?
Yes, please.
From Billy Duffy. This is from the website of Roland, the music manufacturer. Billy Duffy of the Cult talks about how his quasi-psychedelic guitar intro came about. I found a violin bow and I started to play the guitar with the bow like Jimmy Page. I did it to amuse Astbury, who was in control room. In order to make it sound weirder, I just hit every pedal I had on the pedal wheel. And once I stopped banging the strings and doing all that, I played the middle section of the song, which was a kind of a pick thing with all the boss pedals on, and that sound just leaped out. The producer went, hold it, that's great. And we decided to start the song with that mystical sound. If I hadn't found that violin bow laying around, we wouldn't have gone there. Right?
Yeah, that's great. And just in case you don't know, so Roland owned Boss.
I'll do that. I was wondering why they were advertising someone else's pedals.
Yeah. And Boss are the ultimate utility pedal. They're one of the originals, and actually their old pedals. Their old pedals from the 80s go for a fortune. So have a look at what you've got. You might be sitting on the gold
pedal.
BO1.
I don't know. I've never found a use for it.
Yeah. If it's one from the 80s, it's worth a few bob.
Oh, it will be. Yeah, I got it when I got my first electric guitar.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Came with it. So yeah. Have a
look. Would you like to take a guess on the number of words, the number of unique words?
Let me just look at it, just to get. Let's say 350 and 76.
Well, a long way off, my friendly professor. There's 212 words with 37 unique words.
37. Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Brevity is the soul of wit, said somebody.
the Wild, I think. I could be wrong.
It was
Yes.
Shakespeare.
Was it?
Okay, lyrics. Oh, the heads that turn make my back burn, and those heads that turn make my back burn. Sparkle in your eyes keeps me alive, and the sparkle in your eyes keeps me alive, keeps me alive.
For me, my lyrics I have is keeps me alive, keeps a man alive.
No, it's not. It keeps me alive. It's him singing. So what are those heads that turn, do you think? And why is his back burning?
Well, that would suggest to me that he's being watched. He's just getting this sensation in his back that he's got eyes on him. I would suggest. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what band have said it's about, but they don't include this bit at all in that.
No, they don't. And then the sparkling in your eyes keeps me alive. What do you think that means?
It should be just enjoying the light in your romantic partner's eyes, but I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's a drug reference or something.
The next lyrics, and the world turns around, the world, yeah. The world drags me down.
Yeah, it's everyone turning around to look at him, and it's dragging him down.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm having hay fever issue once. There isn't much to say about it, is there? It's
Well, that's it, right? That's the magic.
yeah. It really does prove to me that we try far too hard when we try to write songs.
Yeah, I think so. So the last lyrics I can find are, I'm sure in her you'll find a sanctuary. I'm sure in her you'll find sanctuary. And then it's repeat with a few, hey, yeah, aha, aha. I mean, let's not overlook this, that this is probably the first group that we've covered in this incarnation that he's doing a lot of hey, yeah, woos.
Yeah, absolutely. And they work. He's got a very good whoop.
Surely
to
has.
him. Maybe an indigenous American whoop or something. I don't know. Or is that not cultural appropriation? It appears it is if some people do it and not if others do.
Well, what he was accused of culturally appropriating was Jim Morrison's Time in the Desert, of course.
Yeah.
And then the irony being that at one point he was the singer for the Doors, right? With the original band members. And that's it. I mean, this is their biggest hit. It's got a handful of words that don't really mean much, and that's it. So I assume we've both got the same quote.
I have two different quotes.
Oh, go ahead then.
Probably. So what you do yours, and I'll do my other one.
Okay, so in 2012, Astbury was discussing the song and said it's referring. Well, the quote is, "She Sells Sanctuary" was probably referring to the power of finding solitude in a woman's arms and the matriarchal energy, whether it be an actual physical person or in a spiritual sense. The greatest matriarch, and thinking of the cosmos as a female energy rather than a male energy. These are archetypal things I was picking up from discovering things like Joseph Campbell and Buffy Sainte-Marie, or even Jim Morrison.
Yeah, that's one of the quotes I have. That's from an interview with avclub.com. The other one is, I don't actually know where this is attributed to, but it's on the internet, so it must be true. It's a quote from Ian Astbury. What's the song about? Sex. Plain and simple, it's about sex. I've had sex, and I'm very proud of that fact.
I saw that quote. I thought it was a quote from Duffy. That one.
Oh, well. Who knows? I guess it's about football. the one who writes the lyrics. I don't.
Yeah. All right. So,
Yeah.
have you read any of the other interpretations? I've got one that I really want to read out.
No, I couldn't find. I
Okay.
think some people said it's about drugs, but everything
Okay.
people say is about drugs.
Well, this is from a user called Toby Initon. I forget where it's from, but one of them sites. If you ask me, it is about a guy at a farmer's market who's trying to sell his chickens that he raised from little
did see
chicks and is having separation anxiety. That makes your back burn is obviously talking about his sunburn, his sunburn from when he was feeding the chickens.
Yeah, I did see that. So it's on the songmeanings.net. Yes.
Yeah.
So no, I didn't copy that one into my notes.
I mean,
Yeah.
the other thing that we should discuss is that it's she sells sanctuary. So is that selling sex, which
Yeah.
results in being a sanctuary?
Yeah, and that was what other people were interpreting as being sanctuary, being a drug she sells. But
Yeah.
let's just take what the authors said. Let's just suggest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's simple, it's short. He repeats it a lot and he says, "Woo, yeah." So well done, in Astbury. You've made
And
an
it's
absolute banger with nothing.
yeah, it's a fantastic bit of guitar, certainly. Yeah, good. It's also appeared in films with honours and Layer Cake, which is a great film. You see Layer
Oh
Cake?
yeah, yeah. It's with
Yes.
James Bond, right?
Daniel Craig, yes.
Mhm.
Good little gangster movie. It's also a lot of people, if you haven't seen it in a film or whatever, you still might know it because it's appeared in a lot of video games, including 2 different editions of Grand Theft Auto. And for some reason, it appears on Guitar Hero Aerosmith. Okay? So, no idea.
Of course.
It
Do you know who?
also was used as part of the 2012 Super Bowl commercial broadcast in a mashup with Flow Rider's Good Feeling, which must have got it a few new fans, I should think.
So he mentions Joseph Campbell and Buffy Sainte Marie. Do you know who those dudes
I
are?
know Buffy Sainte Marie did an album or a book or both called Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, which we have discussed in another incarnation, which is also a Waterboys song, both being about the plight of Americans. Don't know who
Yeah.
Joseph Campbell is.
So she is still alive? I'm not sure. A Native American who talked about the plight. Joseph Campbell was a professor of literature talking about comparative mythology and comparative religion. All right, I've got nothing more to say about these 37 unique words. Let's dive on to the next one.
No, I mean, and I've got lots to say about this one, I promise you.
So the next one is from the same album, from Love from 1985. This is Hollow Man. Let's dive into some words. It's so nice to get away for a day. I see a hollow man, gun in hand. Gun in hands, it points my way. Follows me everywhere and every day. I got to get away. I won't miss him if he goes away and stays away.
For
So,
me, this is fairly obviously about depression. It's probably not obvious to anyone else.
yeah, I'd say so. That or drugs.
I think the
I
Hollow
mean,
Man is the depression following and dragging him down.
yeah.
Oh, I did read it was about the original drummer, but I'm not sure if that's true.
All right. Who was
I
sex
don't know. Yeah,
just
I
before
don't
they
know.
did She Saw Sanctuary?
I don't know if they sacked him. I don't know why they sacked him for having anything to do with that.
Okay. So what do we know about Hollow Man, Hollow Men?
Well, the only real reference is the poem by our old favourite. It's amazing how all these linked together, isn't it? T.S. Eliot,
Hmm.
who we discussed at great length in the Sisters of Mercy episodes. So a poem from 1925, and while it's thought to concern the condition of Europe post World War One under the Treaty of Versailles, which Eliot hated, I don't think that's what's being referred to within the pulse. If it's referring to this at all, I think he just took the phrase from it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's the Hollow Men contains the last stanza is, "This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, which is T.S. Eliot's more famous lines, and it's used not the whole thing. People don't say the line 3 times over. Something ending with a bang, not a whimper, with a whimper, not a bang, or whatever. It's used.
Which song can you think that uses that? You know any?
Rings a bell.
It's actually the end of an EMF song.
Oh,
Bizarrely.
right.
I can't remember which one it was. That's off the Children album. I didn't know what it was from. Okay, so yeah, so Hollow Man, spiritually and morally empty. There are no values, making life meaningless.
Basically, a politician.
Yeah, exactly. There's also a 1935 locked room mystery novel by the American writer John Dixon Carr, featuring his recurring investigator Gideon Fell.
Well,
This was called The Three Coffins in the USA. So it's in chapter 17, the often reprinted locked room lecture, in which Dr. Fell speaks directly to the reader, setting out the various ways in which murder can be committed in an apparently locked room or otherwise impossible situation. In 1981, this was selected as the best locked room mystery of all time. Yeah. Okay, so next set of lyrics. Just a hunter for the devil, hollow man, hollow man, hollow man. Just a hunter for the devil, hollow man, hollow man, hollow man. So there's a hollow man with a gun.
I still think it's he's anthropomorphizing his depression into a separate entity, which is hunting him on behalf of the devil, and he's going to get him in the end. He wouldn't miss him if he went away and stayed away.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the lyrics.
That's it.
Except for yeah.
There's a lot of, I mean, this is I love this song. Really, really love this song.
Music's great. Yeah, I know. Lyrics not so much.
Yeah. Do you want to guess the number of words, the number of unique words?
It's actually push. Well, I think it's because I don't copy and paste repetition into my notes. So
you fool.
Yes, let's say 250 and 24.
Oh wow. So it's 166 words, of which 40 are unique.
Wow. I'm
so it's
amazed
got
at that.
more unique words than She Sells Sanctuary.
Wow. Who'd have thought it?
There we go. Okay, I have nothing more to say about this one.
Oh, okay. I couldn't find even anywhere it was used in films or anything. I just couldn't find a thing. There isn't any information out there at all, really, except for She Sells Sanctuary and Rain, and we're not doing one of those.
Yeah, maybe we should. So we're going to come on to the next one, which is going to take even less time. So the reason that we've chosen this one, or that I have chosen this one, is that this is one of my favorite songs, amazingly. And so this is Judith, which was a B-side from a It was also from 1985. It's on the extended version of the Love album, and it's a B-side to a song that I can't remember.
Revolution.
Which
Revolution
one?
EP. Revolution EP, wasn't it?
Sounds right. And song is Judith, and for whatever reason, before my exams, I would listen to Amphetamine Logic by the Sisters of Mercy, and I would listen to Judith by the Cult because it put me in a good sense of concentration. And I used to name everything Judith. So I had a bike that was called Judith. My first guitars were all called Judith. I don't know why, but they were. All right, so let's dive into some of these extensive lyrics.
I reckon about 75 words with about 20 unique.
That's pretty good, Professor A. This is 78 words, 28 unique words.
Surprising.
Okay. Comes and goes she comes. No man will ever make her moan, break her bones. Hey Judith, Judith, hey hey.
Yeah.
That's it. No, hang on. On the weight of a storm, she comes and goes. Oh Judith, yeah Judith, oh Judith, blah blah blah. There she goes, Judith. That's it. That's all the lyrics. That's all the words.
You missed a line. You missed a line.
With
no man will ever break her bones. Yeah, with fire and her halo, she comes and goes. Yeah.
Okay, so it's just him saying Judith and oh yeah, 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 hey, hey. But I think that's an important aspect of his song.
Yeah, and also let's not forget to mention it's over 5 minutes long with these 78 words.
Yeah, that's impressive, right?
And it is a great bit of very slow rock music. I like it a lot. It's very atmospheric. I wasn't actually aware of this one before you selected it for this, I have to say.
Oh, really? Oh, this is... Okay. So Judith, what do we think Judith means?
I tried to search and see if there was actually a real Judith he wrote this about. I couldn't find them. I couldn't find any mention of this song at all. There is a book of the Bible called Judith, or it's the part of the Apocrypha. It's not part of the published Bible. About a Jewish widow, beautiful Jewish widow called Judith, who, in a time of occupation, seduced the general of the occupying army, Holofernes, and then locked his head off while he slept. I'm sure he wouldn't have woken up halfway through or anything. And carried the head back to Jerusalem, where they all celebrated for 3 months. And I'm sure that's got absolutely nothing to do with us.
I think it is exactly that. So Judith is a girl's name of Hebrew origin, meaning the woman from Judea.
Yeah.
Where do you think this name was in terms of popularity in the US in 1940?
1940, during the war.
When in it, yeah.
250.
It was the 4th most popular name, 1940. And that's because there are lots of versions of it, such as Judy, as in Judy Garland, and lots of other ones. So let's talk about some famous Judiths. Well, Judy Garland, who was probably Shakespeare named one of his daughters Judith. We have the Dame Judi Dench. We have the novelists Judith Krantz and Judith Rosner. Dancer choreographer Judith Jameson. Baby in The Walking Dead is named Judith. And for me, the best ever female chess player was, of course, Judith Polgar, the only female to make it to a Challengers of the World Chess Championship. So there are various different variations of the word Judith. But yeah, so I think it's that looking at the word, she comes and goes. No man will ever break her bones, make her moan. So she is a widow, and Like she says, she uses her beauty and charm to trick and kill an Assyrian general who besieged her city, and she saved
Doesn't mention-
Jerusalem from total destruction.
It doesn't mention the head lopping in the song.
No, it's a shame, right? Because
It's on the weight of a storm, me. Weight of a storm.
I don't know. It's nice.
I don't know. You'd normally say on the wings of a storm, wouldn't you? She mentioned.
Yeah. No, she was under the weight. You know, the weight, not wings, sort of carries you. Weight sort of oppresses you. So they were being oppressed.
She's on it, not under it.
Oh, yeah. It's fire in her halo.
I didn't check whether there was a Saint Judith or not, or if it's the same person or not, but I doubt it would be the same person because actual biblical characters aren't usually saints. So. Halo, obviously, meaning suggesting a saint, but I don't.
True.
I should have looked that up, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Because I was so depressed at how little I'd managed to follow. Follow man following me.
When I saw "Break Her Bones, Make Her Moan," I thought it was a sexual thing.
Well, she did
but I
seduce
guess
the general.
she did seduce him and then lop him off before anything happened. So
It is said in the book of the Bible, the apocryphal book of the Bible, she remained unmarried for the rest of it.
yeah, right.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
It most certainly is about that, isn't it?
Yeah. There we go. That's our first 4 cult tracks, and I think it's really interesting the I'm going to say scarcity of lyrics, the brevity, because everybody knows the words to "She Sells Sanctuary." It's such a big song, but really they're saying nothing.
Yeah. I can't think if there's any that we missed out that do have more lyrics, but I think they do, really.
No. I think we should have been more ambitious and gone for 6er rather than a 4er. I reckon we can bang out the next 8 in the next
Well, if you want to
episode.
add a couple more, we can do it to fill out 3 episodes. See how many we do next time. And
Okay.
see if we need to add some to the last episode.
But I think it's interesting the brevity.
Yes. Oh, we went back to when we, in a different incarnation, did some of the songs of the Beatles. We were shocked by how brief some of their massive hits were.
Yeah.
But then they also did do much more involved lyrically. So
They did. Simplification is tricky. All right, I think that does us for today.
yes, excellent. Well, give us a like, give us a subscribe or something, and we will be back with at least 4 more cult songs presently in Shakespearean sense.
Bye-bye.